If you're a video editor and you're looking to stand out from the competition, you've got to have a great looking resume. Now, crafting a resume that perfectly exemplifies your skills and experience can be kind of a daunting task, especially because we're editors, we're not writers. But don't worry, I've got you covered. Because in this video, I am giving away my best tips to make your resume exactly what the client is looking for. So let's get started and get you standing out from that competition. Consider a template. Canva actually has a lot of document templates that you can build off of, even in their free version. So if you're finding yourself not sure of where to start with your resume, start with a Canva template and build off of it to make it your own. You can also find other resume templates and inspiration just by Googling it. When I was making my resume years and years ago, I simply just Googled resume templates until I found a style that I could work off of and that I liked. Then I went to InDesign, which is a Creative Cloud app, and started playing around and building my resume until I made something that I liked. What to list? Obviously, put your name and your best contact information. For me, this is my phone number and my email. You can also list the social media handles that you would like them to look up versus them just Googling your name and seeing what comes up, because they will Google you. List the software that you know, even if you barely know it. List the relevant equipment that you own or that you've worked with. Definitely list the internships that you've had, and I would list that under work experience. List all of the independent content that you've worked on, short films, school projects, and on mine, I actually have this in a separate section than my work experience, but it doesn't have to be. You want to definitely list your education if you have any to list, and you want to include any links that you'd like to attach to your resume. You can create actual links for your resume by opening your saved PDF in Adobe Acrobat, and you can easily Google all of the details for how exactly to do that. But it's an easy and great way to keep the eyes on your profile and essentially onto you. Tailor it to the job. You've got to keep your resume concise, and you've got to appeal it to the client immediately. Because of this, I highly recommend that you create different kinds of resumes if you have a varying amount of work experience, and if you're applying to different kinds of jobs. Personally, back in the day, I was working on TV shows in the costume department. I was working in admin kind of work. I was doing on-set sound and sound design for productions, and I was doing video editing. So I ended up creating a resume for each of these niches because I was applying to a lot of jobs. Now, even if you don't have a lot of experience to work with, it's still important to have your most relevant work at the top of your resume, depending on the job that you're applying to. This may mean just moving those 3 jobs that you have in your back pocket around, depending on how relevant they are to the job that you're interested in applying to. Also, it's important to take a look at the description of your actual job duties, making sure they are also concise and relevant to the job that you are trying to apply to. A long paragraph with all of your job duties in extreme detail might make you feel more accomplished and might make your resume look more full, but think of the client's attention span. Bulleted list of your relevant concrete duties and how they directly relate to what you can do in this new position would be a lot more effective. If you're new here, I'm Colleen, and in this channel, I help you to get a video editing job, and I help you get paid doing what you love. So for more tips on that, I'd so appreciate it if you can hit both the like button and the subscribe button, and you would be supporting my channel by doing that, and I so appreciate you for doing that. And if you are interested in becoming a YouTube video editor, specifically with Premiere Pro, and you also happen to like the idea of using Skillshare to do that, then clicking the Skillshare link in the description below will give you a free month of Skillshare so you can check out my classes on there. Put relevant and recent work at the top. I mentioned this before, but I will say it again. It may seem correct to want to list your experience chronologically from the top to the bottom, but the top of the page is what the client looks at first. So just like it's best to put your best footage in the beginning of your demo reel, putting your most recent or your most relevant work at the tippy top is the best option to appeal to the client. And actually on my resume, my most recent and relevant work experience lives in the top right-hand corner in the second column on on my resume. You want your most engaging, relevant, recent thing to capture the client as quickly as possible. And so either the upper left or the upper right corner is definitely highly suggested for your resume. Utilize a resume base camp. If you're going to be customizing your resume a lot to fit into the different types of jobs you're applying to, I would recommend having a Word doc or a Google Doc that has all of your work experience and all of your detailed job duties listed onto it. Because if your career journey is anything like mine, very scattered, lots of little jobs, changing work niches, you start to forget the jobs that you did have or the projects that you did work on and exactly what you did at each job. So it's nice to have this sort of base camp for all of the details of your job, your chronological order, your dates, all the information that you need for each job, for it to all have a nice place to live that you can then pull from when you're making your customized resumes. Now, for some people, this might actually just be your LinkedIn profile. If you are updating your LinkedIn profile constantly, which you really should be, you can be typing out as many details as possible for each job that you've worked. And you'll have very easy access to it if you ever need to pull from it when you're creating a new or adjusted resume. Either way, this makes customizing your job applications a lot more efficient. Consider a career snapshot. If you don't have a lot of experience, it could be an interesting idea to write up a career snapshot to live at the top of your resume, followed by any and all work experience, no matter how relevant they are. Essentially, a career snapshot would look like a small paragraph detailing how you would describe your work experience. In this small paragraph, you can talk about the kind of work that you've done so far and how it relates to the kind of work that you'd like to do in the future. You can detail your career goals and the soft skills that you've gained from your past experiences. Think of it as a teeny tiny version of a cover letter. The career snapshot is an alternative to the kind of more antiquated objective that sometimes lives on people's resumes as a more engaging and even more personalized option to beef up lighter resumes. Keep education at the bottom. Simple tip, but here's why. Like I mentioned, your most relevant work should live at the top. And while education may be important depending on the kind of job you're applying to, as a video editor, it's quite rare that my educational degree has come into consideration as to whether I'm getting the job or not. So for me, my education lives in the bottom right-hand corner of my resume, as well as any other courses or any other certifications that I might have. It's there if they want to see it, but in my experience, it's the work experience that clients really care about. Keep it to one page. With competition for video editing jobs being so intense, you want to make sure that your resume stands out and is easy to digest. Employers are more likely to consider your resume if it is concise and well organized. And this means keeping everything contained into one page. It really just looks nicer. Now, if you're having trouble with this, first of all, congratulations, you have a ton of work experience. Secondly, take a look through your resume and see if there's anything that's not actually that relevant to the position that you're applying for. You can also play around with the font and spacing and margins to give yourself more room to work with. Like I mentioned before, on my resume, I have everything separated into 2 columns, and I try to keep the descriptions pretty concise, really only like 3 bullets in terms of the job duties and job description to save and utilize as much room as possible. Check for errors. Small tip, but worth mentioning. First of all, I highly recommend you create your resume in a program that detects spelling errors. Second of all, it's really worth to spend the extra 5 minutes to read over your resume, preferably out loud, to make sure that everything makes sense and is spelled right, and that there's no weird missing words or added extra words, so that when the client reads it, everything just checks out and there's no red flags in terms of spelling errors. I have received resumes before in the past that did have spelling or grammar errors in it, and it really is a huge turnoff for me and led me to not even looking any more into their resume or pursuing them at all, because to me, it just looks like they don't care enough to actually look through their resume and double check that everything looks right. So spend the time and make sure it looks good. Always send the PDF. Always send the PDF. If you don't, and you send it as a doc file, all of your pretty formatting will be thrown out the window. And it just looks really, really bad if you're sending me a workable doc to open up. So please, oh please, oh please, export as a PDF before you send it to the client. Now that you've got a good idea on how to maximize your video editing resume, check out this video next on how to maximize your interview potential when you are interviewing for your next dream video editing job. Be sure to hit subscribe for more tips on video editing and freelance lifestyle. Thank you to my team. Again, I am Colleen, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good one.